I've been very fortunate in my life to be a kid actor on Malcolm in the Middle. That's like winning the lottery. And I'm
Mhm.
so grateful for that experience. When I put my helmet on every race or every practice session, whatever it is, I put that visor down and I leave that pit lane. I've never been more comfortable of where I'm at than in that position. It feels
Wow.
like it's what I'm meant to do. I think every race car driver says, I want to be a cup driver, right?
Of course.
I want to be a cup. Obviously, that's my goal. I know with my age, if it's going to happen, I've got to be a prodigy. I got to start winning races right away. And then even when I'm done racing, I want to be involved in the sport in some capacity, whether it's an owner or, I want to be at the racetrack. It's where I like to be the most of anywhere in the world.
I am now joined by ARCA Menard Series driver Frankie Muniz. Frankie, thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thanks for having me. Excited to be hanging with you.
It's been I was just telling you, it's been awesome to see your forays into the ARCA racing world, into stock car racing this year. But I want to go to the beginning to start out
Okay.
here. When or where or how, I guess, were you first introduced to just racing by and large?
Well, I mean, growing up, I was a huge fan of racing. I remember being, 6 or 7 years old, and I'd wake up early Sunday mornings and I'd watch the Formula One races and NASCAR races. And when I was 5 or 6, moved to North Carolina. We lived in the Raleigh area, a little town
Okay.
called Nightdale. So I went down to Charlotte Motor Speedway a bunch, when I lived there, and um, camped in the infield and watched the races. But it was one of those things like saying that you want to be an astronaut. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I didn't know how you become a race car driver. Like it felt like a dream job. I didn't grow up in like a family of racers or didn't start karting when I was 5 or 6 or 7. I actually got asked to do the Toyota Pro Celebrity Race that they did in Long Beach for 40 years.
Hmm.
And I ended up winning that. And that feeling of
Yeah.
crossing the finish line first was hands down the greatest feeling I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow.
And I knew I wanted to do it. But even then, you still go like, well, I did this pro celebrity race. How do you become a race car driver? I was
Yeah.
18 or 19. I didn't realize at that point that I was already pretty old to just be getting started in the racing world. But I got asked by a team that had a Champ Car team, an Atlantic team, and a Formula BMW team just to come to Houston. They had, their drivers going down there to do a test. And I like got in the Formula BMW car for the first time. And I remember being so intimidated, which now I think is kind of comical because that car is just kind of so little, but like
Yeah.
just feeling like I had no idea what I was doing. And I went out and I was actually fairly quick. And they're like, you could probably do more with this than you think. So they signed me to a 2-year development deal. I raced in Formula BMW in 2006, moved up to the Champ Car Atlantic Championship in 2007, which I raced in until I got hurt in 2009. So sorry, I talk a lot. So
No,
I'm
no, but
sorry
you're
for
giving me a
giving
whole
you long
crash
answers.
course. Yeah, into
Yeah.
into your history. Well, so you kind of answered when you first drove a race car. That was going to be one of my questions. But from what I understand, you didn't have much stock car racing experience before. Did you have any stock car racing experience before this season?
I knowing that I wanted to do ARCA, like to be honest, my plan was to be an ARCA last year in
Hmm.
2022. Um, but I did a few late model races. I raced in the Irwindale late model championship for a few
Okay.
races, and I raced a few races in the SRL Southwest Tour. Uh, I think maybe five. I did five oval races prior to my start at
Gotcha.
Daytona this year. So,
Wow.
so I had some, but no, in the grand scheme of, I mean, I think to this day, I think Elko was my 11th oval race of my life. You know what I mean? Um, so I know I was kind of throwing myself off the deep end, but in that same sense, like I knew if I wanted this, I had to. I'm 37 years old. I
Hmm.
don't gotta, if I want to make it, I don't have a lot of years to kind of like
Sure.
hone the craft. If I'm gonna go, I gotta go. And I figured, ARCA is a very competitive series with some really good drivers. And if I could have some success there, maybe there's a future in it. If I didn't, then maybe it's a 1 year thing, and I go, I tried.
Yeah.
It's way harder than it looks, or whatever. And I go on with the next thing in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm happy this year has been going. I think better than anticipated, even
Yeah.
for me. When I showed up to Daytona, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to be first or 40th. Like I had no idea where I stood. Even Phoenix, I remember saying that the morning of the Phoenix race, going like, I could be 27th. Yeah, like I could be. I have no idea. I'd never touched the brake pedal on an ARCA car until that race. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But fortunately, some success there. So anyway, I'll let you ask the questions and
No, well, that's that kind of, it's a good segue because I mean I think you have turned some heads this year. Like you said, I don't know if like maybe you surprised yourself a little bit, but I mean you've been running top 10 consistently, super speedways, shorter ovals. I know y'all have. Is it your first road course race coming up next, or
Yeah, in the ARCA car,
in
but
the
that's
ARCA
what
car?
all my experience
That's
is in
true.
the past was all road course stuff. So
Yeah, so that's not as
I'm
daunting, I
really looking.
suppose.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm
Yeah,
hoping that I have, I hate to say a little bit of an advantage, but that is what I did in the past.
yeah.
All the oval races are brand new to me.
That's
Like short tracks, that's all like new feeling, new different types of racecraft. Granted, I've never driven a 3,700 pound beast of a car that has lots of power and doesn't really turn and doesn't really stop. I'm
yeah,
used to the little Atlanta cars that are light and you roll tons of speed in. I think the lap times at Mid Ohio and the Atlanta car were like a minute 6 seconds, and we'll be like a minute 31, a minute 32 in the ARCA car. I think,
yeah.
so the big difference in speed. But I don't know.
You're
I'm
looking
really
forward
looking
to the
forward
road
to it.
course. The road course
Yeah.
isn't as daunting. Like a lot of stock car racers, it's they just try to get through the road courses. You're the opposite of that,
Yeah.
so that's exciting. Well, I was gonna
I feel
ask.
like that's changing though. I feel like there's a
Yeah, it
lot
is.
of, because like I remember even in Cup, like, the road course specialist would come in and dominate, where that doesn't really happen anymore. Like a lot of
Yeah,
the Cup guys have gotten really, really good on the road courses. And so I think people grow up knowing, even in the stock car world, that you're going to spend a lot more time on road courses than you used to.
yeah.
So to try to work on that as well,
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. There's so many on the schedule now that you got some really good Cup Series regulars. You can't just you come into a Cup ride with no NASCAR experience and be good on road courses anymore. That's hard to do. So
No,
no,
I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like guys
yeah,
come in and they don't do as well as people
exactly.
expect them to. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? But
Yep. For
guys are
sure.
serious in Cup. They're good
well,
racers.
yeah. No, you talk about though learning ovals this year. I mean, how difficult has it been? Kind of just learning all this again. I mean, you're for a race car driver who's kind of getting their feet wet. You're definitely older than most. So how hard is it to
Yeah.
learn on the fly this season?
I the advantage that I have is it's an advantage and a disadvantage. I haven't actually been in a race car in 14 years, right? So I'm not taking like I have it in my bones, right? I know how to drive a car. I know, what it feels like to be on the limit and all that. So that was there. But what I feel like the biggest thing to learn has been just the racecraft. I never realized how close the racing was in stock cars until I did it.
Yeah,
Right. I'm used to the open wheel stuff where the starts are kind of gnarly because everyone's all bunched up, but then it gets kind of single file and you hope someone makes a mistake so you can get past them. But in the stock car stuff on the ovals, like it doesn't matter if you're battling for the lead or you're battling for 30th, like you are in a battle and you're passing cars and it's close contact and you're hitting each other. And it is just so different from what I did in the past, as far as even setting up a pass, like figuring out how to get by the guy. So I've really had to just kind of learn on the fly, like you said. But I feel like the ARCA car or like a stock car suits my driving style. I really excelled in the open wheel stuff on the slow technical corners, like on a street track, like they're about to race at Chicago, like Long Beach.
hmm,
Those are more like not super high speed corners, more kind of low speed. You have to be good technically. And I feel like driving a stock car is that all the time, right?
yeah,
Even at like a fast that's a track that's really fast, it's still like you have to be really a lot more technical to your driving than just chucking it in and not being afraid of hitting a wall. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I feel like it's kind of worked to my advantage in that sense. But the racecraft, even the rules, even at Elko, I'm on the radio going like, are they allowed to do that? Like, is that, like, I'm still
Sure.
learning the rules.
Yeah.
I'm still learning what all the switches do in my car. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
That's funny.
so there's a lot to learn.
Yeah. Well, but kind of like you're saying there, like, you didn't race for a long time, so you didn't have as many bad habits that you had to break out of necessarily. You're kind of establishing all those habits now for the first time, and you can make sure you're doing it the right way. Um,
Yes. and I'm eager to learn. Like I
Hmm.
want to learn. I'm not going into thinking that like I know what I'm doing or I know how to do it. Or if I get advice from my crew chief or my spotter or another driver, I take it
Yeah.
because they've been in this world a long time, with these cars at Elko, for example, I was what I thought was being aggressive, but I was over driving the entries. I was rolling in 10, 15 mile an hour faster to the middle of the corner. And I would literally catch everyone. And I'd kind of hit them. But then they were way better off the corner. And in my mind, I'm thinking like from what I used to drive, you have to be really aggressive on entry, roll a ton of speed, and
Hmm.
you kind of catch it out and go. But so I'm still learning a lot. I was happy with
Sure.
how that race was going. I was very happy to be in the top 5. That's where I feel like I need to be in this series. Unfortunately, didn't get to finish the race, but yeah, a lot. Even that was a learning experience. I learned how
Sure.
hard a concrete wall hurts.
Yeah. No,
How what it feels like.
gosh.
So
Yeah. Oh, well, was that the first like crash I guess you've had in a stock car or in a car like that?
I had one incident, not like that. I mean, at Irwindale, I got spun going into the last lap, going into turn 3, and kind of backed into the wall.
Hmm.
You're always surprised because you see these big dramatic crashes on TV, right? As a fan, like
Yeah.
you see them, guys just get out. These aren't Elko is probably the slowest track that we go to all year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, I still hit that wall like head on, probably at like 110 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So if you think of driving down the freeway, even at 65 miles an hour, and go, I'm just gonna go head into the wall. It's
It's
not
not
gonna
gonna feel
feel
good.
very, you
Mm-mm.
know. But no, I mean, I feel fine. It's more like how shocking you feel, or I do at least, invincible when you're in the car. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm 100% in control of what's going on. And never does it cross my mind of like, oh, I could crash.
Mm.
So I think it was more the shock of like getting when I made contact and went into the wall of like, what just happened? Like, how did that
Yeah,
happen? Like
wow.
everything was going great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's over. So
Mhm.
it's definitely it's not fun. I don't
I
I,
know.
I do have a feeling and I'm trying to get over it of like a little bit defeated right now, right?
Mm.
Like because maybe it woke me up to the fact that wait, not from a fear standpoint of like, oh wait, that can happen.
Yeah.
Like you cannot finish races,
There's
right?
a
Because I've
limit
been forced to
you can
finish every
push too
race.
far. Yeah.
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 So, but it's part of it, as well.
It's
You're
part of
gonna
the learning
have,
experience. It's an
yeah,
unfortunate and a painful part of it, but I mean, yes, it is in a
yeah,
way. That's a very interesting perspective, though, to hear
yeah.
how that goes out. But kind of, I guess, maybe on that note, I noticed on social media this week you put out sort of a call to action, looking for sponsorship to help get through the end of the season. Can you kind of explain to the folks watching at home just how much work it takes off the track to race on the track? I'm sure you can speak to it as well as almost anyone.
Yeah, I would say that being a race car driver is 5% being a race car driver, and the other 95% is spent trying to find sponsorship
Yeah.
partners to come on so you can be a race car driver. We at the beginning of the year, we had a bunch of people approaching us, and uh, I was, I don't know how to put this the nice way. I had people on my team that were turning down deals, turning down money, thinking that more was going to come in.
Okay.
So it put us in a bad position for this year because instead of being totally set, we're funded for about 14 of the 20 races. There's
Hmm.
still time. We have a lot of irons in the fire, but it's also July of 2023 and most companies' bigger budgets are allocated the year before. So
Sure.
people right now are starting to look for money for 2024, not continuing to look for money for 2023. So it's put us in a difficult situation. Obviously, we're going to show up to every race because I am still competing for the championship. That's my goal, is to win the championship. I want to finish the season
Yeah.
100%, and I'll do everything in my power to do that. In that same sense, a lot of people come to me and they go, well, why don't you have the money? Why don't you just pay for it? And I started this journey again, as something I wanted to do to show my son, uh, to give him the drive to reach for your goals and fight for it and do all that. So I want this to be the most authentic way possible. I'm not here to write a check. I'd rather give my son the money. You know what I mean? I'd
Hmm.
rather not spend the money and watch on TV, me personally. I know that the partners that we have on board, Hair Club, Ford, Reskills that we had on the last 2 races, they've been so unbelievably thrilled with what we've been able to bring as far as attention to those brands, to the series, to the manufacturer. So I know that people are very happy with what we're doing. I think the biggest problem is we've always showed up, until I kind of said it last week on Twitter, and everyone thinks that we're good, right? We look like we're good. We've got big brands on the car.
Yeah.
We're showing up. We're competitive. We're not cutting corners. So I felt like I had to just make it people aware, because I think people, even when we've approached people, they go, "Oh, we just assumed you were set, so we didn't come
Mm.
to you. We would have loved to do something
Yeah.
a few months ago. But it's all part of the learning process too. I know that as much as we're trying to find the funding to finish this season, we're already starting to look for next year. We
Yeah.
have to be we can't be playing catch up during the season. We need to know where we're at and be able to approach the season head on, not hoping
Yeah.
things come through. Obviously, having I don't think you could have had a worse crash at a place like Elko than what I had, as far as how much it's going to cost to fix that car. That car is pretty much toast.
Yeah.
But that's part of it, unfortunately. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we're working hard and coming up with things. I just signed actually a new sponsor for Pocono yesterday. So, we got someone on board for Pocono,
Nice.
and that's what we're kind of trying to do. If we have to do it at race by race basis, I'm willing. And that's one thing I want to make clear. Like, I want this to be a reality, right? I want to be a race car driver. And I know to be a race car driver, there's a lot of things I need to do for companies, for brands, social media, all those things. And I'm willing to do all of it. You know what I mean? There's nothing that I've
Absolutely.
said no to so far.
Yeah.
There's a few things I'd say no to, but not many.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's great. The drivers who embrace the whole thing, the whole experience. It is, like you said, a lot of it goes beyond just being talented behind the wheel of a race car. You got to do a whole lot more to keep the dream alive. Frankie, I want to kind of wrap up with one final question. I think you started to touch on it there, but I've heard you say before that you want people to know you, as a race car driver first, not just an actor turned race car driver. So, what racing goals do you have for yourself, both this year and you already talked about next year, going forward?
To try not to make a long answer, but I want to say this. I've been very fortunate in my life to get to experience a lot of amazing things, right? To be a kid actor on Malcolm in the Middle, that's like winning the lottery. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so grateful for that experience. I left that. I started racing in 2005, 2006 for a few years until I got hurt. I then joined a band, which I was very, passionate about, toured all over the world. I then started an olive oil company. I mean, I've done a lot of things in different kind of businesses and career paths. The one thing that I feel like I have the most unfinished business, that I always said from when I stopped in 2009, was racing. That I wanted to go back to
Mm-hmm.
racing because I wanted to prove it to myself, but I also wanted everyone to take it seriously too. Because it's easy. Even when I was in the band, one unfortunate thing that would happen, I was very proud of the music and the live show that we put on, but everyone would say it's Malcolm's band or Frankie Muniz's band, and I was just the drummer.
Yeah.
They looked at me as the actor first that was doing something else. And when I put my helmet on every race or every practice session, whatever it is, I put that visor down and I leave that pit lane, I've never been more comfortable of where I'm at than in that position. It feels
Oh,
like it's what I'm meant to do. I honestly feel that. So more than saying like, oh, I want everyone else to feel that too, or to see me as a race car driver, I just want me to have success in it, like personally, like
yeah.
for me to feel happy with what I've done. I think if I do that, other people will take me seriously as a driver. But in that same sense, yes, I know my past. I know I was on TV. I know it's hard to forget that. And I'm not asking for anyone to forget that, but I would love if people didn't discredit the effort because I used to be on TV, or like take
Mm-hmm.
away from what I'm doing on or off the track because of what my past was. So I don't know. My success for this year was what I said at the beginning of the season was I wanted to get out of the race car every single session, every single race, and say, I did my best. And so far, for the most part, this season, I've done that.
Yeah.
Now my game plan has changed from rather than going like, I just want to learn and feel like I tried hard. I go, I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to win this championship. I know we took a big hit. We were a bit far away from Jesse now, but we're still in second. But you don't know what's going to happen over the next, we still have what, 13 races. We're not even halfway done.
Still very much in contention.
So, yeah. So I go to the racetrack now feeling like, I don't know how it's going to be, where I'm going, no, I'm going to be in the top 5. And if I'm not, I'm probably going to be disappointed. Where I remember finishing 11th at Daytona, and like literally it was like I won the lottery again, finishing even 6th at Charlotte because I passed 4 cars on the last lap. I was screaming on the radio, so excited. Finishing 6th at Berlin, I was like, nah, that ain't it. I got to be better. I got to be better. So the mind frame is changing a lot. But long term, I think every race car driver says, I want to be a cup driver, right? I want to be a cup. Obviously, that's my goal. I know with my age, if it's going to happen, I've got to be a prodigy. I got to start winning races right away. But the plan is to continue racing, hopefully to move up the ladder into the trucks or Xfinity, but I want to make sure I'm ready. I don't want to go there and feel like have people feel, or I feel, that I jumped too soon. But that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Is to keep going and be in this sport for a long time. And then even when I'm done racing, I want to be involved in the sport in some capacity, whether it's an owner or, I want to be at the racetrack. It's where I like to be the most of anywhere in the world.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can relate to that part. And I'm sure a lot of folks watching at home, a lot of fans can relate as well. Like I said at the beginning, it's been super fun to follow your journey, especially this year. And best of luck the rest of the way. Sky's the limit. Thank you so much, Frankie Muniz, for coming on the show. Really, truly appreciate it.
I appreciate you so much. And look for the number 30 car going to the front, Mid-Ohio.
Absolutely.